Hi everyone, welcome to Gypsy Heart Tarot. My name is Govinda. Thank you for stopping by today. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon below. That way you'll be notified every time I upload new content and whenever I do a live stream as well. If you're returning to my channel, thanks for coming back. I really appreciate your continuing support. So today in the Gypsy Camp, I'm going to talk about Trinity Tarot by Paul Wisner, also known as Ari. You can find his Instagram and Etsy shop in the description box below, which is where I purchased this deck. And it's quite a gem really that I found. This is the second edition of the Trinity Tarot, so there has been the first one. And I suppose unlike most, I come late to the tarot party when it comes to new decks and things, but I don't think there's any time for being late or on time. It's just a matter of whenever it comes. I tend to find certain decks come into my life at a certain point for a certain reason. So there we go. So it comes in a tuck box, which is sturdy enough to hold the cards. It's a nice matte sort of finish, nice feel to it, lovely colours. Although as you can see just through transit it has had a bit of wear. Now this isn't an unboxing because I've had this deck for a number of weeks now, and this is really more of I prefer to offer videos where I have worked with the deck for a while to give you a bit more insight. There are plenty of tarot YouTubers out there who do initial box openings and walkthroughs from when they receive the decks, which I find very invaluable to watch, and I've bought decks on the back of that information, so thank you for providing that content for us. So yeah, my approach is really to talk about how I've been using the deck. So I like to open the deck and use it for a number of weeks. Plus also when I receive a deck, I really don't want to wait to open it. I'm a bit like a kid at Christmas where I can't wait to open the box. So there has been a bit of wear and tear from transportation. I don't use the boxes for storing. I wrap them in cloth or bandanas. So this isn't from me carrying it around or anything like that. So yeah, I appreciate people do use the boxes for carrying it around, and that's up to you, isn't it, really, what you do. So I would imagine that it wouldn't last too long like that, this box. But the reasons behind creating this sort of box is very nice. The fact that it is an environmentally friendly deck. It's a plastic free deck and completely recyclable. It is printed and made in the UK, so if you live in the UK, that's also a nice bonus, because then it means that the carbon footprint is a lot less, and it does use water-based gloss as well. So it's not highly glossy, it's a matte gloss, so it's nice, not a massive shine, but it does mean that it can be recycled to its entirety if needed. So that's good. Yeah, and the cardstock is really nice. It is a plain cardstock, but it's still quite thick. So I like the cardstock, I like the thickness of it. It's good to handle, it's nice to shuffle with. It's also thin enough if you wanted to riffle shuffle, but I don't do that. I don't like to do that with my decks, and that's a personal thing. I know other people do, and that's fine, whatever. There's no right or wrong way with shuffling, it's whatever suits you or floats your boat. I personally don't riffle shuffle, so that's not a problem for me, but for those that do, this wouldn't be an issue either. It's a square deck, so it is the same width as a standard tarot deck. So yeah, this is like a smaller deck for those with smaller hands or want to have an easier handle. Sometimes I do find that certain decks can be a bit, on the XL size, which can be a bit difficult even for me. And recently I am embracing the mini decks. I've come across some versions of decks I already have in a miniature version, which are even smaller than this. So it's nice, I suppose, to have a halfway between, which isn't too mini, and it's quite nice and very portable. So yeah, you could pop this in your bag and take it wherever you wanted to. So in the box then you get the deck, which we'll look at in a minute, and you get an extra card, which is signed by the artist. I got the 10 of Pentacles, which is quite nice for me and fitting. I really enjoy that. I don't know if everyone gets the same card or different one. because I've only ordered one deck, so I wouldn't know about that. But yeah, the backs of the cards, you can see it has this nice navy blue and mustard yellow colors to it. Now, the colors in this deck, they do represent the all the suits, all the elements. So earth, water, fire, and air. So we'll go through that as we walk through. So yeah, I really like the color on the back of these decks, and also it is reversible, as you can see, you know, any which way, because not all the cards have the signature. So if you take that off, you can see that it is reversible if you read reverse cards. I don't read reverse cards personally, or I'm not really doing so at the moment. Again, that's a personal choice. Everyone does it differently, don't they? But I know that it can, some designs on the back of cards means it is off-putting if you can tell if a card's reversed or not. So this is nice that they are reversibles. So that's the extra card that you get. You also get a little note thanking you for purchasing the deck, and it's addressed to the person who ordered, with a nice message there about the deck, and asking you to, you know, leave a review as well. And this is a limited run. So on the second edition, this is a 800 number run, and this is 100. So if you are a collector, that's a nice thing to look out for as well. I don't collect decks just on that sole purpose. I know people do. I collect decks that I'm able to work with, because for me, tarot decks are a working tool for me as well. So I prefer, when I'm looking at decks or wanting to purchase them, it is with the ultimate goal of being able to work with that deck, not just to have it on the shelf or put in a frame or something like that. And you also get the white book. Little white book is more of a pamphlet, so it really does just give brief explanations of each of the suits, as in what they represent, the elements that they represent, and the zodiac signs, and 3 or 4 keywords for each card. Now, this deck is really designed to inspire your intuition and your own connection with the deck. So it doesn't go into lengthy descriptions about the artist's intention. And that's because also this deck is quite minimalist, modern in that sense. I know other decks, they have a lot of intricate details in the artwork, and some artwork can be a bit not as traditional perhaps. So it's a bit, you know, we'd like to hear from the artists themselves, you know, a paragraph or a page about what their vision of this deck was, so we can connect with it better. But with this is more minimalist in the sense that we are just going to be seeing the bare essentials of the symbols, following a typical RWS Rider-Waite-Smith system. So it's still very familiar. But yeah, so in that sense, really, they're not trying to bamboozle you with having to remember keywords or remember long paragraphs of information, but really just to give you a nudge in the right direction, or the direction that most perceive as quite common, but at the same time wanting to really help you connect with the decks yourselves and develop your own relationship with that. So I think that's very good, actually, and I think that would work very well both for experienced readers like myself. I've been reading for 20 odd years now. I started with cartomancy and reading playing cards, and then moved on, you know, obviously with numerology, and then moved on with the RWS system as well. So this works as, you know, a study deck for those who want to reconnect again with tarot if they've had a break, or if they want, you know, I always go on the theory, on the principles that even us experienced tarot readers need to have a day or two or some moments during the month of study, and to go back and look at things again, just to refresh things, which is always nice. And also, if you're new to tarot, this is a great starter deck, because it is just showing the symbolism of each of the cards. So we'll have a look at the cards now. We'll talk about that as we go through. So yeah, here we go then. So we start with the Fool. I'm not going to explain too much about each card, but certain ones I will explain more on. So as you can see, you know, we've got the stars in different colors. I don't know if that picks up on the camera, but yeah, those representing the green, the yellow, they do represent different suits. the different elements. So this is a genderless deck as well, in the sense that they don't represent any particular gender, which is nice, because a lot of decks do heavily rely on the vision of people and their gender and age, which can be a bit off-putting depending who you're reading for, or if you're reading for yourself. If you don't see yourself in that deck, you feel like you're lacking that connection and representation in the deck, which, you know, is something that tarot decks really do. They are stepping up on nowadays, which is great to see, and hopefully a lot more moving forward. So it's nice that, as you can see from this first deck, this first card, that it's just a white canvas expressing the bare essential symbols to really connect and get that reading across. So it's not just genderless, but also personless as well, in the sense that we're not relying on people here, just on the symbols. So I find that really, really useful, because there are some decks I have that the artwork is amazing, and I love reading with those cards because the artwork is wonderful and beautiful, but at the same time some of the symbols can feel like they get a bit lost within the artwork, or it's not as prominent to notice unless they put them in the border or somewhere. So it's nice to have a deck where the symbols are just literally popping out for you to connect with, and I think, yeah, people will be able to connect with this deck, whatever gender, sexuality, age you are. It's yeah, and I think that's the main purpose of the tarot, is to be able to, if you're reading for yourself, to see yourself in the cards, or if you're reading for someone, for them to also see themselves in the card. So this will work well in a face-to-face reading, so people would easily be able to see themselves in this card, because they're just looking at the symbols that are represented. And like I said, these are very much RWS. It doesn't steer away from RWS. So if you're used to reading Rider-Waite-Smith, you wouldn't have a problem with this. If you're new to tarot or new to Rider-Waite-Smith, again, you're getting those bare essential symbols, which makes it a lot easier to read. Also, the religious symbols in this deck are quite minimal and quite neutral as well. And we'll look at those when we get to the card that would normally represent religious symbols. So here we have the Magician, for example, and again, this card works so well intuitively, because you can see the different elements, the different tools: the cup, water, pentacles, earth, the wand, fire, and the sword, air. And you can see the staff in the middle. You know, the staff is straight down the middle. It's control, it's drawing the line, it's keeping things in line, I suppose, would be an interpretation of that as well. And yeah, that says so much with just the bare essentials. And this is not a simplistic deck in any way. So just because it's a bit more minimalist, or just showing the symbols, it really is very clever the way that the symbols are done, you're still able to draw a story from the cards, which is also part of my reading style, is making sure that there's a story flowing through the cards. So yeah, and I love the colors and the lines, very crisp and clear, and the words, just the name, no keywords here, anything which can bug people out on cards. So it's nice just to have a clean, crisp image. The High Priestess, love the colors on this card, the green column here, you know, very typical RWS symbols. What I like about this card is that it does embody what the High Priestess is about. You know, if the High Priestess is about questioning what we're seeking, or we're seeking something, we have the question mark here in a line, nicely done, which is lovely. And these colors, I mean, this gives me like a Mediterranean vibe. I don't know if this was the intention of the artist. I'll have to drop him a line and get some opinions from him, hopefully, because this gives me a lot of sort of Greek Mediterranean vibes. This could easily be an ancient Greek temple or architecture here, you know, which is lovely, because those of us that like to associate, you know, a season with a deck, I know a lot of us do have seasonal decks, like for Halloween or Christmas. This for me would definitely be a summertime deck. If you wanted to have a deck for the summer, this would be one for that. This is giving me a lot of Mediterranean vibes, you know, the white of the buildings with a pop of color on the shutters here and there, you know. So this is taking me back to when I was on holiday in the Greek islands many moons ago. Yeah, so here we have the Empress, very typical arduous symbolism here. The Emperor normally you'd find with the horns, so not steering away really, and the colors are just beautiful. The tone of the colors are right, excuse me, you know, they're not too gaudy or too bright. And again, it's a matte, so it's not too glossy really. It's a nice smooth finish. It feels great in the hands. So here we have the Hierophant. Now normally the Hierophant traditionally would be, you know, using the imagery of a pope and monks or followers. And I think in the first deck, from what I've seen in online, this deck did show, you know, the Pope sort of hat here. So this has been, one of the cards has been updated, which is great, because I like to think that artists do listen to our comments so that they can improve on the second or third editions, and they're not just reruns of the same design. So he's really responded to what people wanted, which is really great, so thanks for that. And it makes it easier, because even for me, you know, I'm not really deeply religious, following a specific regime. I like to take things from different schools of thought. So whenever I get a deck that is heavily reliant on a particular religion like Christianity, I sometimes do have trouble with that, and that's just me personally. Those that want that kind of deck, they know where to go for that, right? But here it's very much pretty neutral. You've got the typical symbolism of the top of the staff that would normally be held, the cross keys and the book for knowledge. And the two columns represent the two people, the disciples, the followers, the people listening to this message. So again, there's nothing lacking here to be able to interpret this card, you know. And the fact that it is religion neutral is a good bonus, positive bonus for me. The lovers here, again, no gender. Normally you'd have an angel or God or a cherub or someone looking on the lovers, and a man and a woman. Here we've just got energies. We've just got two hearts, so we know they're in love. They're representing different elements here, and energies of different beings. This eye could be interpreted any way you wanted to, couldn't it? It could be the eye of God, could be the eye of the universe, whatever is right for you or the person you're reading for. So again, you can really be drawn into this card. So I really love this interpretation on this. It's a really nice, and the colors are really lovely as well. But it gives the message, doesn't it? It gives that same message that you'd normally find. The Chariot, we have the essence of movement with the undulation, left or right movement, which is often represented by horses. The two different colors, black and white. Normally this is red and white. This looks a bit like also the game of tug of war. If you're from England, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if other countries play that game when you were kids, but you know, having to pull a rope with a flag in the middle, this represents that idea. So being torn one side or the other, and that's the Chariot really, isn't it? Trying to keep things on a path in the middle, not too far one side or the other. And this really does encapsulate that, and it's lovely colors, design, the line, the artwork is beautiful. The Strength card, very typical with the lion, and the infinity symbol. And I do like this lion because, you know, its mouth is closed. Some decks have the mouth open, and that feels a bit forced for the lion. I actually enjoy this lion because every time I see it, it reminds me of Elvis. I'm not a massive Elvis fan per se, but the quiff here reminds me a bit of that. So maybe that's a little interpretation. King of Rock, King of the Jungle, Strength, the lion. Who knows, right? But yeah, again, and even as I'm talking to you now through this deck, it's still talking to me. The deck is still giving me new symbols, new messages that I may not have got before. So it does grow with you, which I find really nice for such a deck that is just based on the symbolism. The Hermit, very typical to have the lamp of the Hermit, and so very iconic. So we've just got the solitary lamp here. Nothing else is needed really on that card, is it? You know, there we go. Wheel of Fortune here, lovely. The colors are beautiful, and they work well together. The tone, the palette, it really is yeah, a nice deck. The Justice, very typical, what you'd expect if you know what the RWS is. The Hanged One, so this is another change. So because we're not having gender expressed here, so rather than the Hanged Man, which is normally the case, we have the Hanged One, which is a really nice feel to it. And yeah, this is a pendant, isn't it? Could be a crucifix, looks like a crucifix, but that doesn't bug me out really, because we all have jewelry or pendants anyway. And the fact that the cord is relaxed and not taut shows the relaxed energy of the Hanged One, because normally the Hanged Man, although he's upside down being hung, in a way he's relaxed and comfortable with that position, and this shows that comfort and relaxed. So again, you know, you do get the same messages through on these cards. Another thing about this deck is that it does have quite a positive feel, not falsely so, just even when we have negative cards like the Death card, which can in some decks appear to be quite harsh or quite scary, depending on the theme of the deck obviously. But Ari here has tried to make certain cards in this deck that would be a bit of a block for some people when it comes up in their reading, to really give a positive spin on it as best possible. Not a false positivity, because we have to deal with it if it comes up. But I like this because, you know, yeah, the sun does shine through predominantly on this card. Typical imagery here, the skull representing the death, but then there's a flower there, so there's hope, there's growth. And the skull doesn't look scary. It's not one of those scary cards really, is it? You see that in a reading and you wouldn't be put off as you would by other death cards, or even the traditional tarot decks where you have the Grim Reaper on a horse bearing down on someone. This isn't that sort of energy at all. It's much more calmer energy, which I suppose breaks down the barrier of people then looking at that card and going, oh, I can't deal with it, and step away, rather than inviting them through the tower, saying we have to go through to get to where we want with the sunshine, with the new dawn. We have to go forward through this, and it does invite you to, okay, I will go through this, because it isn't that scary actually. And I suppose then it breaks down that barrier of fear, and then you're able to listen more to what the message is, rather than just being blocked by that initial shock of the card. Temperance here, very typical imagery, and the Devil card again mirroring the Lovers, so with the same energy, represented on either side, which is nice. So it's continuing story, just that now the eye has become more like the Devil, with the horns as well, and the red, the pentagram there, and the chain. So we know that the energies here, the people who it represents, are chained up, which is very typical of the Devil card in many decks. But again, this doesn't look horrific, it doesn't look scary, it doesn't look, you know, the Devil does represent oppression, doesn't it, in some way, but this doesn't feel like it in that way. So it's an easier pill to swallow, I find. And again, with the tower, that can be quite traumatic for people to see, people falling off the tower. Sometimes the tower is bending halfway down, crumbling, really disastrous. And in this deck, the tower still looks quite strong. It's still holding fast. It's just got a couple of fires that need to be put out. The lightning has come in, which is typical. But this to me looks more like, you know, yeah, there's been a bit of damage, we need to fix it, but it's not completely destroyed. Sometimes the tower looks like it's completely destructed and it needs to be built up again. So, you know, again, yeah, it's a bit of a lenient energy on this card really, which is nice, because when people get this card, they're a bit, oh no, disaster, that's it, is all gone wrong. And really, it still shows here, there's still some foundation, there's still some strength here. The relationship, for example, in the love reading is still holding up, despite it might need some fixes. So, you know, it's a bit of a easier pill to swallow for some of these negative cards, which can appear to be very negative. This is an easier approach really. The star, very typical image, star guiding us through. We have the, you know, representation of land and water. Excuse me, oh, my voice went a bit there. So yeah, normally you'd have a person with one foot on land, one in the river as they're pouring the jugs of water. So here we've got that represented here, land and water. So yeah, very typical. And the colors, the blues and the yellows, they just work really well together. The moon, very typical imagery, moving off into the distance. And the two wolves or dogs that we would normally find in this card, of different energies, because we've got red and green. Yeah, they're facing each other. And this is something that I often interpret in the moon card, is that we have to face our inner selves, our inner shadow self that we're not facing up to. I usually sometimes tell people, have a good look at yourself in the mirror when you look at this card, to not see your physical appearance, but to go deeper into yourself in that way. And this fact that these dogs are facing each other does represent that very, very well for me. So again, a very nice card. It's not lacking anything at all for me, you know, which is great. And I found this to really help intuitively for me to definitely develop more intuition. And I've used this as well for meditation over the past few weeks. You know, shuffled, drawn a card, sat there, meditated on it, and it works really, really well. It's amazing how spot on this is. The sun, again, lovely. No scary baby. So for those of you, you know, who would normally see in RWS system a cherub-like baby riding a horse or something like that in the face, normally they can never get it quite right, so it looks a bit weird or spooky. And here there isn't that. It's just the sun, the sunflowers, different energies here, all just being happy and warm, and you get that warmth. It's what I like about the use of. That's why I say this deck is so clever in its design, and the lines, the way they're drawn, is that you are drawn to the sun, and I do feel that heat coming from the sun here. So that happiness vibe is not lost at all by this. And if the baby creeps you out, then there isn't one. So yay, a bonus on that one, isn't it? Judgment, again, very similar with the bugle message being heard. So rather than having people, we have these sort of like coffin shapes to represent what a person might be without having gender, and the fact that yes, one's lit up, so someone is receiving the message, someone is being enlightened or moving on from the crowd, I suppose. Yeah, but it works. You know what it is, don't you? You're not, because sometimes you get these really sort of abstract cards in the deck that are a bit, oh, what are they trying to say with that? I'm not quite sure. This is very loud and clear what it means. There's no messing around or beating about the bush. And the World card, similar to the Wheel of Fortune, which you find that symmetry in these tarot decks, and again with the different energies to represent the world as one coming together. The infinity symbol to say that although this is the end of the Fool's journey, it's going back to the beginning again. So yeah, and the reef, the color, the green color, is really job well done, I think, on the major arcana there. So those are the majors, and yeah, I think they very easy to interpret intuition. You wouldn't need to read the keywords necessarily, but for a beginner, those keywords would help. And really, yeah, you could really pick this up and start working with it straight away and start getting messages without having to know the keywords. So let's go through the suits then. So we have the wands here, very typical with the hand coming from excuse me, from the clouds or the sky. Really, you know, yeah, typical imagery here, isn't it? We've also got the Two of Wands, very typical, looking out onto the world. Yeah, you know what that's about really there. Wanting to get out into the world, discover. That's really, you know, the Two of Wands are propped up, ready to go. It's a bit like if you ever do hiking and you have one of those staffs or walking sticks, you'd leave it propped up by the back door or by your front door, so it's ready to grab and go. That's that sort of vibe I'm getting there. You're ready to get out into the world. So it just works, you know. For me, I connect with that easily. The Three of Wands there, creating that vibe there. Yeah, absolutely. Four of Wands, typical with the, you know, just no people involved, but stability and structure is still the essence there. Five of Wands with the conflict, difficulties, but you are definitely dominating it, so you're definitely in control or fending it off. So it still has quite a positive, although there's these sort of cards that can be difficult to digest or difficult to understand, it does show the positive edge that you're still dominating it, you're still controlling it, you're still able to get through it, which is nice. I suppose that's my sort of reading style as well, to always try to find some positivity in the readings, not to give false hope, but just to really spin it in a way so that, you know what, yeah, these are difficult things to deal with, but there is a brighter sky. You are moving on to something better. Six of Wands, very typical, you know, sort of recognition. One of the wands is higher than the others in the crowd with, you know, regalia and whatnot. So it's quite a traditional symbol there. Seven of Wands, you know, fending off anything that's potentially or may not be. You definitely got that barrier put up, which is nice. Eight of Wands, typical with the wands moving off, fast movement. So as you can see, these cards are not too far away from the normal RWS system and easy to read despite lacking elaborate scenery or people involved. And that's what I found really interesting with this deck, that you don't necessarily need to have people to connect with it. And this is probably why I got this deck, just to really, you know, see how I could work with a deck like this. So then we come to the court card. Now the court cards have been renamed because obviously normally they would be page, knight, queen and king. So to avoid gender, we're using different names. So the page in this deck is called the Apprentice. And I do like that because that name Apprentice does really say a lot about what the page would normally represent, that youthful person, learning as they go type energy. And, you know, yeah, although these cards look quite pippish, you know, similar to Marseille, I suppose, and they could have been just, you know, like these six wands just placed in line, they are, it's better this way because they are still put in a situation. There is some sort of scenery to help you read it. So it's not just, this is also a deck that I would find good for people who wanted to maybe read Marseille, or to if they have decks, they like the artwork of Pip style decks and a bit afraid of Pips, they can be. This would be a good stepping stone between them, going from RWS to Marseille, by having something like this where there is still some context given. So, you know, yeah, looking out, the, you know, the Apprentice of Wands, again, looking out to universe, you know, the world or the universe is their oyster, and they're looking out, they're focused on getting somewhere and doing something, but they're still learning, you know, they're still discovering. The Champion of Wands, yes, we have that sort of knight-like imagery here, but it's no gender, so a woman could be here as well, why not? And the fact that movement is the essence here, because the fireballs flowing gives that sense of movement. So we have normally the Queen, which is now the Keeper, which makes a lot of sense as well. She is keeping the kingdom of wands together, and that's really what the Queen does. And especially, you know, if you play chess, the Queen does a lot more than the King. The King is quite stoic and doesn't really do much and can't have too much power, whereas the Queen can go everywhere and do anything in order to keep everything going. And really, this is a good name, I think, for alternative for the Queen. And again, so there's no gender, so the Keeper is whoever the Keeper is, right? So that's whatever your gender association may be or not, it's fine, isn't it? You know, and the crown rather than the king. Very typical imagery, so you recognize it very well. And I personally, over the years, have had difficulty in reading court cards and things, and these just seem very nice interpretation around that. So we have the Cups now, Ace of Cups, again, very similar. And yeah, you know, things are kept the same throughout the deck, so you do know what an ace looks like. It's easy to identify it. Two of Cups, the two energies pouring into one. That's again very typical imagery. Three of Cups, yes, this does look like a party. This could be like a glitter ball or a dance floor. Yeah, very vibe of the Three of Cups really here. Four of Cups here, very typical imagery, you know, all. So they're not, you know, again, like I said, they work really well if you know the RWS, and even if you don't. I think you're able to connect with this energy and what this means. Five of Cups there. Six of Cups. The Seven of Cups here, we have the different options, choices, or people not really being able to commit. So again, like I said, this is what I mean. This, although this looks very pippish, we have context here with different things in these cups. A Pip or Marseille deck wouldn't have that, so you'd be like, okay, I see 7 cups. What does that mean? At least here you've got some idea. Oh, there's different things in these cups, so it means that I'm choosing different things. I have choice, or it could mean that I can't make a decision. I can't commit to just one thing, one type of thing. I want everything. I want it all. So you see what I mean? Just by looking at this, you instantly getting the messages coming through. So I love that for this. Eight of Cups. Now, this is where, again, I say that these cards are clever in their design. Because Eight of Cups, normally you see the cups lined up, the 8 cups lined up on a wall, and the person walking away. The sky will be quite murky and dull, and they're walking towards a brighter light, a brighter horizon, with the idea that they're walking away from a situation, or emotionally becoming more detached, or something hasn't quite worked out for them. They may be carrying one of the cups with them, as in still holding on. But here, you're not focusing on the cups here. Normally in those sort of cards, you do focus on the cups, on the lack of, or the thing that isn't working. And the message for me that I normally interpret before even seeing this deck on the Eight of Cups is, don't focus on what isn't working. You're moving, emotionally detach yourself from that and move on to either fix the relationship or not, but don't focus on what isn't working. If it's not working, if you've lined it all up and it's not working, what can you do? But with this, the way it's designed is you are drawn to the center through like a window made from the cups to the sun, and the moon represented here. So if it's a moon or sun, doesn't matter, it's something brighter. And really, your eye is drawn in between. So you see the cups here, yes, but they're not in your line of focus. Your focus is on the horizon, and I'm going to go through that window, and I'm drawn to go through. And this is what I mean, these cards, you know, especially these sort of cards, they do draw you into the cards. It's not like you're sitting here looking on. You're wanting to, I'm wanting to literally step through that window and see what's beyond this wall of cups. These cups that may not be doing anything for me anymore, you know. So that's, like I said, a very clever way of doing it, and a very nice imagery to use there. Nine of Cups, everything's all lined up, you know, perfection or near to perfection, I suppose. A nice set of glassware. 10 of Cups, normally you see a rainbow. We get the sun here, and we get different colors here to give the essence of a rainbow, so it's not too far from what you'd normally find. And the completion, the whole set, everything's in a circle, infinite, you know. Yeah, they just work for me. They just really work. And again, we have the apprentice learning with the quill. Probably they're making a love potion, perhaps, you know, cups and love, who knows. Champion of Cups, normally the knight. Yeah, they're drinking the potion that's just been made. The movement of the water suggests movement, which is the movement of the stars with the little dots represent movement. Keeper of the Cups, again, this is the cup with a lid, which I like, because they're keeping it. They're trying to keep things, the emotions together. If this is the leftover from a love potion, keeping that love potion in, protecting it. And the Crown of Cups here, glorifying the, oh, hallelujah, we have this love potion, or this, you know, this celebrating it. And the heart on the cups reminds us that it's love. In all of them, they're there. So, you know, yeah, it's, yeah, again, like I said, you know, I'm repeating myself a lot during these cards, but it's because they just work, really, you know. Ace of Swords, the Two of Swords, yeah, you know, intuition with the moon. Really, you know what you want this is normally about decision making. You know what the decision is, so be guided by your gut feeling on that. You know, first sword's very typical, with the heart being stabbed by 3 swords. Is probably exactly as many cards would represent it. That's normally genderless and without person anyway. The 4 swords here, one is laying down, one is more one is relaxed, and the others are ready. So yeah, that idea of normally the person will be gripping hold of this, and there'll be calmer, they'll be lying down sleeping, as in time to rest. The 5, quite typical here. So, you know, yeah, I just love the design, the line work and the colors. You know, must be quite difficult to know when to add the pop of color, when not to not make it look wrong. And it's quite a, you know, people would say, oh, this is quite an easy deck to produce because it's very minimalist, but I think even then you have to be very careful on how far you go, or how far back you strip everything to not make it too minimalist in that way. You know, the 9 of Swords here representing nightmares, not being able to sleep. There's one of the swords is stabbing the pillow. We get that, right? The other swords are coming in at you. You don't need the person there worrying. You get that there. 10 of Swords, again, those cards that can be difficult to deal with. Normally you see the person stabbed, massacred with these 10 of Swords. Here we've just got the coffin, which represents people in this deck. This to me represents like those magic tricks, you know, where the magician puts his or her assistant in a box and puts the swords through the box, but they're fine. So it's that kind of vibe that although it looks horrific, although it may appear to be disastrous, it's actually not. It's actually an illusion, and the person comes out the other end fine. So again, that's a nice take on that card, I think. Lovely. Apprentice of Swords, knowledge, yeah, intellect, books, perfect. Champion of Swords, yep, things are in line, quite straight down the line. Logical in that way, but we still get the movement here with the wind, the air. It's an air, so there'll be the air symbol, so that works. Keeper of Swords, protecting, yeah, and the Crown of Swords. So yeah, let me know what you think about this deck in the comments below. Do you have this deck? How does it work for you? Would you like to have this deck? Does it resonate with you in any way? Do you like the artwork? You know, I really do like this deck for the size, the shape, it being a square rather than rectangular decks, cards that most decks are. I like that uniqueness of it, and the colors are just beautiful. I thought I wouldn't go for such minimalism, because normally I like ornate things, I like things to be intricate, I like a lot of detail, a scene that's painted elaborately so I can feel like I'm drawn into a storybook. But here I'm drawn in equally, really, and we can see that with this card again. Those negative symbols and cards like the 5 of Pentacles, quite okay actually. You know, yeah, there's some loss. The necklace is broken and the beads, pearls have fallen, but don't focus on that, because look where you can get help, right? There's something there that can help us, so it's not all completely at a loss. So yeah, a nice way of dealing with those sort of difficult cards as well, isn't it, really? You know, 6 of Pentacles, I like this. This gives me a vibe of, you know, because this is give and take and charity. This feels like, you know, when I suppose in, you know, years ago in Victorian times, when you'd go to a shop and you'd have things weighed out by a scale. Perhaps some shopkeepers had them tricked so that you'd get less for your money. This way, definitely the scales are tipped in your favor, that it's balanced out, and it looks like you're getting more for your money, regardless, again, the weight, the counterweight that's being put in. So it's like charity, getting more than you bargained for, that kind of thing, or more than you expected. is a nice take on this. That's the message that comes through on this card for me anyway. What message do you get if you look at this card? You know, I'll be interested to know on that, you know, because yeah, that's part of my channel as well. The seed here, the seed growing into flourishing, 7 of Pentacles, quite typical. This part of my channel as well is to be able to communicate with everyone and you guys, and to really know your opinions on things, and to have a discussion here. You know, that's what we're here for, right? To have a little chat. So yeah, 8 of Pentacles, improving monotonous work, but something gets better eventually. So yeah, this I really do like this deck, and this was a surprise purchase for me. I wasn't planning on purchasing this. I think I was looking for something else online, and I came across this, and really glad that I did. Because it's very reasonably priced. I think it's around the £20, £23, £24 mark, which is not bad for a deck, really, you know. And for what you get, yeah, it is good quality. It is nicely done. It's not like just cut and pasted, put together type vibe. It is intentionally, the symbols are thought out properly as to how they're going to represent things. And yeah, here with the Champion of Pentacles, there's hardly any movement suggested at all, which is very typical of the Pentacles, isn't it? Very slow moving energy, if anything at all. So yeah, that really does give the essence really of what we're talking about. So this is yeah, I really do like this deck. I love this deck. It's really nice. The imagery comes through nicely, and now that I've done the walkthrough, I can give this a bit of a shuffle so you can see how it shuffles. And yeah, it does shuffle nicely if I shuffle properly. You know, so it flows nicely. They're not sticking or anything like that. So yeah, this is a nice deck to use for me, and I do connect with it very easily. I think anyone who's starting out in tarot, this would be a great starter deck, study deck for anyone who's starting out, or any experienced readers who want to connect with the symbolism of tarot. And I think it allows the symbols to breathe, so then you're not distracted by a beautiful lady or a handsome man half naked, or the fact that there's a scary baby, or the fact that the Grim Reaper looks so awful, you know, that you're able to then just, oh, that's popping out, that's interesting. I always take note of cards that pop out. So yeah, you know, it does give that sort of energy to the symbols, and you to be able to connect with that symbolism, and then you can take this connection from this deck to the other decks that you may use. And you know what those symbols are, and maybe you'll see them more in those sort of more intricate decks where symbols are quite hidden. Perhaps it's a bit like, sometimes it's a bit like Where's Wally, or if you're in America, Where's Waldo, where you're trying to find the symbol. Here they pop out, so you probably might come across, if you go back to your other decks, you might start seeing those symbols coming out at you because you've been exposed to them more cleanly in this deck, you know. So yeah, lovely deck. And this, you know, the Sun card popped out as I was shuffling there, so this would say that, you know, doing a reading, and didn't plan on doing a reading, but here we go. So saying that this deck does provide happiness for me, and I hope that what I'm doing with you on YouTube is providing you with happiness and sunshine and positive, warm vibes as well. That's my intention anyway, behind wanting to do YouTube videos. So yeah, please leave your comments in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Like I said, again, please like this video if you really appreciate it, and also subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload something new, and whenever I go live. I will be doing live readings once a week, so watch out for that. And yeah, you can connect to my Instagram as well. I'll post that in the description box. And yeah, if you're inspired to buy this deck, let me know. I'm not sponsored in any way. This was a purchase of mine, so I'm not being paid to review this deck either. So always good to know, isn't it? But yeah, so thank you for watching. It's been a real pleasure to be able to share this with you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay, have a lovely rest of your day now. Namaste.